I am Angie. I'm the one that's doing all of these crazy blocks with you. If you have had any issues, any questions this far, many have reached out. I'm trying to answer them as I can. I'm trying to remember them so that I can say them on the video, because I'm sure if one person has the question, everybody's probably got the same question. So I will try to answer some questions today as well. We are going to go ahead. I had some people that kind of asked me to go back to what I was doing in week 1 and actually put together the block as we go, because they seem to learn a little bit better with that. So this is going to maybe take a little bit. We're going to make some cuts, and when we do that, you're not really going to be able to tell, I guess, but I mean, you won't be any part of that, but you'll be able to follow along and be able to make your blocks as we go. Okay, so well, hey, let's get started. So what we're going to do first, like we always do, give the measurements that you need. The block that we are doing this week, which we can still see behind me here, is block number 3, the one that has the red on the end over here, and that is our Give a Gift block. And if you've cut these pieces out already, you saw that there are a whole lot of pieces involved. So let's go ahead, and I have my other daughter, Gabrielle, is my camera lady today, and so everybody be patient with us. This is her first time trying to do this as well, but you know, she's got some background for this, so it'll work. Just kind of say hi, Gabrielle. Hola. Hola. Hola, she says. Okay, so we are going to start here with our background pieces first, and like I said, you want to make sure that you are taking a little piece of tape or something and some way to identify all of these pieces here, okay? Because when you start to grab from your stacks, you want to make sure that you're not having to sit there and get things all confused, because these are going to get confusing. And so for our first block piece here in our background, and we're titling this one block letter A, and you need 4 of these at 5 inches, okay? The next one you're going to need 12, so this would be letter B. You need 12 at 2 3/4 by 5 inch rectangles. C is 4 at 2 3/4 inch squares. D is also 4 at 2 3/4 inch squares. E is 8, and these are 2 1/8 inch squares. And then we're going to come down here, and in the block, I titled this as leaves. The first 3 here are going to be your leaf, whatever color you're using for your leaves of the flower, okay? You need 1 at 5 inches, and this is letter F. And then we go to letter G, and you need 8 at 2 3/4 inch squares. And on H, you need 16 at 2 3/4 inch squares. And then we're going to move on over to what we're going to use color-wise as your flower. And you need letter I would be 4 2 3/4 inch squares, and J is 8 at 2 3/4 inch squares. We're going to move down to our stem, and that is letter K. You need 4 at 2 3/4 inch squares, and then of course our corner piece, which needs to be the same color corner piece in all corners, and that's 4 at 2 inch squares. Okay, everybody got that? And so then if you already have the book, which some of you, I know you do have the book, and some of you are already done with this block. Some of you are beginning on it before I actually put the video out, and that is perfectly fine. Whatever you guys want to do, if you get it, you understand it, go for it. I'm just here to help those that cannot. Sometimes people just kind of like to have that little, me holding their hand, kind of walking you through. And so that's what I'm here to do. And so I'm going to try to remember when I made the block, there were some things that I kind of caught when I was doing the block. So I'm going to try to remember those as we come through doing the block with you. And that way I can give you the pointers or the tips that I ended up having to do. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to start with our corner square block down here. And this is letter L, okay? And then we're needing C. So grab your L and grab your C. And the first thing that we want to do is on the L, we want to turn these over, and we are going to make our mark, right down the center. And with this, I use my Creative Grid ruler, and I have shown this several times. When you line these up, and Gabrielle, are you able to see these very well?
Yes.
Okay, so I lined my ruler up with this corner and this corner down here, okay? I should say the tip and the tip. And in between, they will meet, and I have them meet on one of the lines here. Can you see that very well? When I have that all matched up, I know that that is a true in half, and I go ahead and mark a line right down that center. And you're going to do that for each one of these, okay? So we've got to find our center because this is what we're going to stitch on. And we want to make sure that we are stitching right down the center.
I think it also might be a little bit more helpful if you lined it up on a line that's also on the grid below it, because it looks a little confusing.
So if I put it right here, right here, try that.
Yeah, because your ruler looks crooked even though you're lining up with one thing, because it's not aligning with both. It looks a little.
Yeah, and the thing is too, that a lot of times, that's why you always go by the measurements on your actual ruler, not on your grid mat, because your ruler is your true measurement, whereas the mat sometimes could be off a little bit, which this one is a little bit. So we can do it as close as we can to it, so that hopefully this is helping you to see how they match up. And if you saw sampler 1, you know we've already gone through this, and that should have helped you quite a bit. This one here did not actually line up. Hold on just a second. That one just was off just a tad. And just a tad will make a huge difference. So you want to make sure that you are doing these as close as possible. This is one reason why I starch my fabrics, because when I'm doing these and when I starch, it gives it like a paper feel to it. So it is a lot easier when you are trying to cut, when you're trying to mark, when you're trying to sew. And it's kind of like you don't have those flimsy pieces, and it makes things a lot easier. So if you see this, I mean, there's not really anything, I mean, I can sit here like this, or I can hold it and it's just like a piece of paper. So it makes it a lot easier if you are not starching. I highly, highly, highly recommend that you do starch, before you start anything. And I'm not talking about the best press, you know, where you spray a little here, spray a little there, because what's happening, if you already have this cut and you spray that best press or whatever kind of starch you're spraying, it shrinks. It's going to shrink at least 1/8 of an inch. And then once you do your 1/4 inch, then you've got a whole lot of things not matching up anymore, because you're actually losing 1/8 of an inch. So you want to make sure, if you're doing any starching, that you starch before anything gets started, okay? That's the best advice that I can give to you. I can tell you, and I don't know if some of you out there that are working on the blocks, that have worked on Sampler 1, if you would like to maybe post something on Facebook, your experience with the starch. Maybe you never starched before, and now that you've done it, that's what you want to do, is starch all the time, because it made things a lot easier. You know, I would love for people to be able to kind of do a testimony, per se, on Facebook. That would be great. And that way, people that are kind of undecided if that's what they want to do or not, that can help them as well. To make that decision to go ahead and starch. But I'm telling you, once you starch once, that you will not want to ever go without starching again. And with that, keep that thought. I mean, because this is what we use, is the Sta-Flo. And when I do my starching, I do part for part. So if I'm using 2 cups of starch, I'm using 2 cups of water. And I submerge everything into my little dishpan bucket thing that I have. And you don't want to get it all wrinkly. You hang it. When you take it out, you're folding it. How do I want to say that? Widthwise? Not widthwise.
Hot dog, hamburger.
Yeah. You want it, you want it to be a hamburger, not hot dog. You don't want a hot dog, you want a hamburger. And so you're going to fold that, and then you're going to clip. You're going to hang. And I don't have anything, but the starch video is on our YouTube if you want to go back and check it out. But you want to clip, because all of that weight is going to hang and pull if you have it lengthwise. So you want to fold it over and be able to clip it so that you don't have that stretch. And again, you want to make sure that it is completely saturated. That is very, very important. The entire thing is completely saturated. Nothing, you do not, many have done this, and they've had to rewash everything and redo it all. You cannot wring that out. You dip it, bring it up, and you hang it. And I mean, I had Ann the other day, she did some white, I needed more white, and we hung it outside. It was done within an hour. So it doesn't take long. It's a little extra step or whatever, but in the long run, it will save you. So I highly recommend that.
Take us to church, Mom.
Yeah, take you to church. And on time, too. So now let's go ahead and skip over here to what we're doing with our, I already forgot the letters, L and C. All right, so we are going to take L, and I'm going to make sure that I'm putting this on the direction it's asking me to. And we're going to take, and we're going to put this down. If we're looking at our piece, okay, we're going to put it in the upper left-hand corner when we're looking right at it, and we're putting right sides together. And we're putting, if you look at this, see we've got our line drawn there, because that's going to be our stitch line. Oh, down. Okay. Can you see that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And this is going to be our stitch line here. So we're going to stitch right on top of that line. And this is going to be a piece where we're going to, after we stitch it down, we're going to measure to make sure that it is still 2 3/4 inches. And then we are going to trim 1/4 inch And we are going to fold this over, so this makes this a whole new piece, a whole new block, and then measure again to make sure that it's 2 3/4 inches. And go ahead and trim. The good thing about this book, they go through, and after every step, it tells you what size your block should be measuring. And that is a tremendous, tremendous help, because when this is all said and done, as long as everything is measuring appropriately, then you will have that 18.5 by 18.5 inch block and not have a whole lot to trim off. So definitely, when I say to measure these up, please take the time to measure them, because just that smidge will throw your whole block off, okay? So let's go ahead, and we're gonna put right sides together, and make sure that your line that you are going, let's see, how can I explain this? That your line, if I'm looking this way, you wanna go from left to right. Does that make sense? So you want this to start down here on the left and go up to the right, okay? So that you know that you're in the correct corner. And if you are using, like my white here is white on white, so I have little white snowflakes. Make sure, oh my goodness, make sure that you have that right side up, because it is so easy to mistake what side is what, and we don't want you having to rip out any more than you have to. So all right, so let's go ahead and stitch these up. Again, let's measure 2 3/4 by 2 3/4, and we'll go from there. All right, so now we have our corner pieces here. I have already measured for my 2 3/4 on these and already trimmed. And so I wanted to go ahead just to give you, for those that maybe have the question of how do I do this, and people are wanting to know how I actually do this. And so what you do, you have this piece, it's lying here just like this, okay, when it's open. And we have our line that we stitched on. And so now we will take our ruler, and again, our 1/4 inch right here, we will line that this way, so we got to be able to cut it. We will line that up right on top of our line we stitched, or the line that is drawn there, however you want to look at that. And then we'll take our cutter, and we will give that a slice and remove that part, so that when it should look like this, and then when we open that up, that's a whole new piece, okay? And then we're gonna take and we're gonna measure, and when I measure mine, I lay my ruler down just like this. Are you able to see that okay? Let me scoot these out of the way just in case. Okay, so I lay this down, and I'm finding my 2 3/4 by 2 3/4. So going across this way, and then in the back here as well. So it should line up as a square as 2 3/4. Okay, and I will go ahead, I've got just a little excess here, and I will trim off both ways, okay? And then I turn my piece, because I just got the one corner area, and I need to get the other corner area, just to make sure that it's all lined up perfectly. And so I line up my side for the 2 3/4 here, and then across, well, you're looking at me, so across the top, or I'm looking at it, it's at my bottom here. And then we go ahead and give that a trim on the side to be able to make our 2 3/4. Okay, so we're going to set those aside for now, and that's going to be in our corner areas. And our next block then, we need one of our B fabrics, which will be the rectangle, and we need the L, I think it's L, no, J. My bifocals aren't working for me. And we need a J. Okay, so we're going to bring that over here. And what we're going to do at this point, this is our B piece, our rectangle, is going to be our base. Okay, and then we're going to take our other piece, the J, and we want this one to go from the top corner down to the bottom corner diagonally. So it'll be from left to right. But starting at the top of your block, and I'm using the wrong thing here. And we are going to line this up just like we did on the others, on the little red squares. And we're going to draw our sewing line. And we want to make sure when we're doing that, this part is going to lay right on top of that, right sides together, because when we're laying these, we want to make sure that it's coming as like our arrow or goose track or whatever you want to call it. It's going to be lying like this. So we're going to stitch down our first pieces, and we need to make 4 of these, okay? So we will have 4. Again, make sure that if they are your like mine's white on white, we want to make sure that the proper side is showing faced up, and then we want to make sure that 4 of our pieces here all get marked properly. And what I have been doing with mine, so say that this is what my whole piece looks like, and if I draw my line, I'm kind of folding mine in half to see what side I like the best, because once it is cut, it's going to go away, right? The other side is going to show up. So I want the side that's going to have a lot more picturesque or pattern. And so I will be laying this piece, I will be laying this piece down. So when I go to trim this piece is going to fold over, and then that will show up more, instead of if it were this piece here, and then see how that's kind of blank, it's kind of empty. So there's a lot more graphics going on here, so I will make sure that this piece is the one that will fold over and people will see that, okay? So let's go ahead and mark these, and we'll take those over and get those stitched up, okay? All right, so now we should have 4 pieces of our B with our J, okay? And so I went ahead, I measured those up. They should be 2 3/4 by 5 inches when they are finished, when you go to do your trimming. And right here is our 1/4 inch trim. Okay, so we've taken that off, we fold that over, give that a good press. And I have one left here so that I can demonstrate again. And let me go ahead and put this here. I'm right on top, I put my markings for my 1/4 inch right on top of my stitch line. Give that a swipe, and I have already pressed my pieces, so that is then pressed. I'll just kind of do that to hold it down. And then we are going to take our ruler and we're going to measure. So I'm lining up my 5 inch over here by my 2 3/4. And just checking, that looks good. And I flip it around so we can check the other side as well. And it looks like I got just a little smidge over here that I can take off. So I remove that, and see, I mean, it's just very little, very, very little. But that little piece there, that does make a difference, guys. All right, so now we have our 4 pieces with this. We are not setting these aside yet because we are not completely finished. Now we want to take and grab our H pieces, okay? And so over here I have my H, and I need 4 from my H pile, and we bring those back over here, okay? And these are going to go on the opposite side of what the J piece went on, but still at that diagonal to give you that completed arrow, okay? And we go ahead on the backs, because these will be right sides together, so on the opposite side here we want to make sure on our back side that we are marking. These marks are very important. We want to go through, mark each one of these, okay? And then we're going to line these up just like we did with the other. And you don't want to try to do both of these at the same time, because it just makes it that much harder when you get ready to try to do your trimming. So make sure that when you are doing these, that you are doing one at a time. And do your complete trim and then your complete measure, you know, for your sizing, and then add the next part. So here, we're gonna take and we're gonna lie this down just like this. You see that, okay? Where we have that line going up to meet with our J piece that's already there. So you can kind of see our arrow. And then when that flips up, you should have 2 different pieces, okay, on top of your B piece. All right, so let's go ahead, right sides together on all of these, and we'll stitch those up. Okay, so now we have our next series together, where we have put the H, added that to the B, where we also have our J. All right, so you should have these 3 pieces all together. I have, those are finished. I have one here to be able to do. So I'm going to trim. Again, I'm putting right here on top of my seam that I had, and I am going to trim that quarter, leaving a 1/4 inch, and I will go over to press that. Now, I have had somebody that asked about how do I do my pressing on these, and for me, like I said, I always press everything open. It does take a little bit of extra time, but when I flip that over, it's nice and flat. And there's sometimes when you get to where you have a lot of pieces that tend to have a big bulk, those times I will try to be able to open and press, but if I cannot open and press, then I will let it fall whichever way it's trying to go to. But I really do try to always open everything up. And when you do open it all up, it does tend to lay flatter much better. And when I do that, I do use steam. And when I do the starching, that's why that lays as flat as it does, is because I starched my fabrics before I did anything, so that starch is already in the fibers of my fabric, and it just kind of grabs a hold of it and kind of gives it kind of a, not, I don't want to say a glue effect because it's not sticky or anything, but it just makes it stick. It stabilizes it so much easier and a whole lot better. Okay, so now let's take these pieces and we're going to set these aside. All right, and we want to keep those in a separate pile because the next set that we're getting ready to do will be going kind of like a different direction. So on the next set, we are still using the B, and we will be making 4. So we need our B fabric, and mine was the white on white. Okay, so here are my B fabrics, and then we want J. We want more of the J fabrics, so we should have 4 of those. So here are my J fabrics, and on these we want to make our stitch line. And remember what I said, when I have a pattern or something and I'm wanting to see what is going to show the best, and I think I like the way that looks. So when I place this down, I'm going to want to make sure that this part is the part that's lying down, so when I flip it up, I'm going to have this piece showcased. Okay, so when I make my line, I'm going to want to make sure that I am drawing that in this direction. Let me make sure I am getting that correctly. Yes. Because these pieces here are actually, I need to lay these out properly so you guys are using them properly. These need to be going straight up and down, not horizontally like the others. So these will be lying vertically, and we're going to add to those vertically. And so, yes, we want to draw our line in this direction. And then when we go to place this, make sure I'm doing that. So don't want to misguide you. So we are going to want this so that this comes up this way. So when it is finished, it's gonna look like that. Okay? Your fold and the point is going to go toward the top right. If you're standing here looking at it, it's going to fold over to the top right. Okay? So we're going to go ahead and draw our line and match each one of those with your diagonal going from top left down here to the right. So when you fold it over, just like this, it's folding up into the right corner. Okay? So let's go ahead and get all of our pieces marked and get those stitched up. Okay, so now we have finished that part where we have our rectangle of B and we have it going vertically, and we attached to the upper right hand corner after we have trimmed. So I've got my one piece here that I still need to trim, okay? And we are going to turn it. Well, I'm going to take my whole mat with me. We're going to lay down right on top of our seam, and we're going to cut that 1/4 inch, leaving a 1/4 inch to be able to have that piece there. And as you can see on here, I've opened up my seams on all of these. Again, I use steam, and I get this effect when I have starched my fabrics, pre-starched my fabrics before I ever started anything. And that plus the steam is going to give you that crisp open seam. Okay, so I like to just show that to you. I have had several people that have asked about it, so I'm trying to really focus on showing those to you so that you see the difference. instead of just a dry heat iron or just applying a steam without having the starched fabric. It will press, but you won't get that crisp that you're seeing here on my fabrics. Now what we need to do is we need to go back to our H pieces, okay? And we need 4 of those, because what we're doing is, and yes, I hear you all saying it right now, isn't this what we just did before? But before, these pieces are considered going horizontally, okay? And these are going to be vertically. And when we start putting everything together, you're going to see how those all go to play. And here we're doing the exact same thing that we've been doing on the others. We are going to mark our stitch line right down the center of our H pieces. And this time we're going to go this way, oops, totally different way, this way here, where it's going to make our arrow, and it's going to be going to the right, okay? So we just lay that right on top, just like we did before, and it's very important to make sure that you are pressing, that you are attaching one piece at a time, that you are trimming as soon as you are done with that one piece, and then that you are pressing. Very, very important, because you're going to get your best measurements that way. And when you measure each time, this block should be 2 3/4 by 5 inches. So we want to make sure that that is happening as well. So I had already measured my pieces and did trimming on these others here. Oops, this kind of moved just a little bit. All right, and we will go ahead and now attach all of these to our B and J piece. Okay, so now we should have our B, which was our main fabric, with J attached to the right upper side, and then down below to the lower right side will be our letter H that we had attached. So now we should have all of our pieces, and this one I kind of got carried away and I went ahead and trimmed it, but I am going to go ahead and just show you again, and this is only because I've had all of the calls and people asking for me to show step by step again. So I fold over to where this is all open, and I will go ahead and I will give that a cut there, pull that away, and then I go and press, and when I press, I do mine open. If you don't want to do open and you like pressing to the light side, the dark side, whichever side, that is totally up to you. I do these videos just to show you that this is what I do, not saying it's right, that it's wrong, just showing you what I do to try to make it a little simpler. And this is completing this step here, which will be our vertical pieces. So we are going to now take and we're going to set these aside, and our next we're going to work on the stem, which is letter K. So whatever you have for your stem, we want to lay those out. Okay, let me move these up here just a little bit, and then we're using letter E. So we're going to take 4 pieces of letter E. I think I've got 1, 2, 3, 4. We're going to start with these 4. we're actually going to use all 8 pieces, which somehow I am short a piece, so I'll cut that here in just a moment. And because we're going to have one on one side and one on the other, okay? So what you're going to do, and again, because these are right sides, you want the right side to be down so that you can draw your diagonal on the wrong side. And I've got to look at these because my white on white, sometimes, like I said, it's hard to tell what side is the right side and which side is the wrong side. Okay, I've got them all turned over, and we are going to go through and we are going to draw our diagonal. Let me just double check something real quick. Yes, so you want to draw your diagonal just the same way that we have been doing on all of those other blocks, but you're doing these one at a time. Okay, so we are going to draw our line, and then this piece I'm going to show you on one, and we're going to just do the one side. Okay, so this piece here, we want to lay this right on top of that one, because we're going to stitch our line, and this piece will then fold over just like all of the others have done previous thus far, and it will end up looking like this once we fold it over. Okay, so we want to go ahead, draw our line down the center of each one of these, and if you want, you can go ahead and draw the line down on the others as well, because those, we're going to do this side here all the way down first. Let's just do that. Let's do that so we don't get ahead and I get everybody confused. So you're putting to the lower left corner, you want to place so that this is, let me pick it up, so that is all lined up even here, okay? All of this is lined up even, and we're going to stitch on our sew line right there. And then we'll do that and come back for part 2 of the stem. Okay, so now we have our first part of our stem piece. So everyone's piece should resemble this right here, okay? And this is where we're going to go and grab our second piece to go on here so that it will cover this corner piece that is directly across from that. I'm trying to find the easiest way to be able to say this. So that you just have this middle piece down here is going to end up to be your stem. Okay, and then you have your 2 border pieces surrounding that stem. Okay, and so all of your pieces should be with the line on there diagonally, and we're going to lay these right on top, just like we did on the opposite side, and then we'll go ahead and stitch that on the stitch line, and when you finish, then see how that opens up like that. So you've got your 2 border pieces here, and then you've got your stem down the center. Okay, so I hope everyone can see that okay. And just so that you see I've pressed my seam open. And also, when you have that seam open, that also really helps when you go to try to put your pin in to find your direct center. Okay, I left this one little piece here so that I could open it and be able to trim for my 1/4 inch. So I am going to do that to be able to add that to my other piece. And I've got to go over to be able to press that open, and I'll get that here in just a second. So now let's everybody take these pieces and lay those directly on top with your diagonal going from the top left down to the bottom right. Okay, so when you're looking down at your square, it should be the top left, diagonal down to your bottom right. And go ahead and make sure, stitch on your line and just do what we've been doing. Make sure to press those and trim for your 1/4 inch. All right, so now we should have 4 of our stem with the background piece. Okay, so I've got 1, 2, 3, 4. This one here I left so I could, again, show you the trim. I fold the one piece back so that it lays as the whole square. I lay my ruler with the 1/4 inch right on top of my marking, which is also my seam. Give it a swipe, toss that to the side, and then I'll go over and I will press that open. As you can see, I have pressed all of these here. They're all pressed open. Okay, and then we can take these, set these aside. Whoops, hold on a second. I forgot to do my trimming. And remember, all of these should be 2 3/4 inch. And so I am going to line up and make sure that all of mine are working out to be 2 3/4 inch. And you always want to flip-flop it to try to make it even, okay? So right here, I go ahead, trim that piece off. Have a little bit on this side. Because you don't want to try to, everything is about keeping it even, keeping it all level. And if you do not, later down the road here, when we're putting everything together, you will be able to tell something did not line up. And I got one more spot here, I believe. Did I go too far? It goes on this one. Okay. It all does take time, but you're already putting a lot of time into it. Don't you want it to be correct? That's my philosophy. I'm putting all this time into it, by gosh, I do want it to be correct. Okay, so now we can set these aside, and we are going to go ahead and put together, we need 2 pieces of our G. Okay, this happens to be my G, which is also considered the leaves of your project. And then we want the part that is considered our flower, what we're using as our flower piece. So we want to put that just like this. And then comes our stem. Okay, so I have it as a triangle here, but it's actually, let's put it this way, it might make a little more sense, because this is where we go to flip our pieces to be able to sew for our center seam here. So again, we have I, which should be your 2 3/4, and this is representing my flower. And then the 2 reds is what I have representing my leaves, and that is letter G. And you want 2 of those, 1 on each side. So it's kind of like the, kind of like how we do the bow tie, but it's not a bow tie. They're both squares. And then we have our stem, and you just line your stem up connecting to your flower piece. Now we are going to take and we're going to flip right sides together, this piece here, right sides together, And you're going to take your pen. Oh, hold on, I moved my pens. Okay, we are going to take our pen, and remember, we place it where it is to identify where we're going to be stitching. Okay? And we are going to stitch along the right side, which turns out to be the center fold of both of these blocks. Now, we are going to do this 4 times. Okay, so for each one of these stem pieces, you're going to do this exact same thing. Again, we're taking our I, which is our flower, and we're going to take 2 pieces of our letter G, and it's going to go right on both sides there. And we're going to take our stem piece and put it right up against here to act as a stem to our flower, our leaves, one on each side. We're going to flip that over, and we're going to pin because we want to stitch on the right side, right down the right side there. And the same for this piece here that has the stem and 1 leaf. We are going to stitch this down the right side. You're going to do that with all 4 of your stem pieces. Okay, and then we'll come back and see what we have. Okay, so now that we have attached these pieces together, we're going to take and we're going to turn all of these. We're gonna match them all back up again, okay? And after you have the one set and the other set, they're both sewn together. We're going to come over, lay our puzzle back out, and then we're going to flip this piece on top, our flower on top of our stem, okay? And we want to be able to stitch in the center, so the one that's closest to us, that's going to be where our stitching will take place. And you want to line up. This is why I do the open seams, because it's so much easier to find the other side of the seam. Just stick it right through there, and then right back down the center of the seam, coming out on the other side on the seam. So that way you get your perfect point. And I went ahead and I stitched these 2 up so you can see there, and I have my perfect points on these 2 pieces. So now you can see it starting to come together. There's our stem with our background in the back. We have our 2 leaves, and then we have the start of our flower. We have the center of our flower, okay? So go ahead and you take the time now to pin all of your pieces, and I always put my 2 here so that I don't have any movement or anything, and they come out just right. And then go ahead, when you do stitch these all up, they should measure 5 by 5. And let me just go ahead and just kind of take a peek, because I did already stitch this one up. And if we open that up, and I've got to press it, but there's our piece there. And again, when I press, see on the other side here, my seam, they are both pressed open. Okay? So let's go ahead and do that part, and then we'll come back and check everybody's work. All right, now we're getting ready, and everything's starting to come together. So we can now start really building our block. We have all of our pieces, all 4 of our center pieces here, center of the flower, center of the leaves, And so how we're going to do this now is we should have, from the very beginning, we have our cornerstone, we have our horizontal piece with B, J, and H, and then we have our vertical of B, J, and H. Now, here comes the puzzle piece. So we are going to take these and we are going to match. So the red should go along with the red. The white should be my white. Whatever your outside piece, your, what do I want to say? The background. Your background color should all be facing out. All the way around, it should be facing out. Okay? So I've got my first piece goes on top here. And then this piece, our vertical piece, is going to line up. So now you see the flower form. Here's our outside border. And then you see the rest of our leaf. And then we have our cornerstone piece that goes up there at the top. Remember, we want whatever we have, every color, every block that we do should have some color in the, it should be one color. Let me rephrase that. It should be one color, whatever you plan on having for your stars that border each block, and the strip that's going to go down, I'm doing it down this side, it's actually down the sides of the block, and then you have your big stars on the corner of each block. That color should stay consistent, and that should be in every corner of your block because that is going to play into those stars. Okay, and then we're going to come down here to this, and we're going to match up our red, and we're going to match up our, make sure that your border piece, your outside background piece is on the outside. Whoops, that piece don't go there. It goes here. There we go. All right, and then I've got my corner piece with the color facing out, and then I'm going to bring this one over with my outside background piece going out. And let me go ahead and do this once I have that in my hand. And this piece, nope, that does not go on there. Did I? Nope, right here. There we go. And we've got our border piece, corner piece I should say, and corner piece here with this piece. And now you've got all four pieces lined up. You see the flower form, you see the leaves form, you've got your stem, you've got your corner pieces in all four corners. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take and we're going to flip this piece on top of here. And I always go right to left, but just make sure whichever way you go, right to left or left to right, that it is the part that you're going to be stitching is going to be the center part. And I'm going to pin that, and when I open that up, see it's still lying the way it's supposed to be lying. I should say laying the way it's supposed to be lying. And then we're going to take this big piece here and we're going to flip this over to be able to pin. Now, this is going to be a little tricky because if you want to stay with your perfect points, what I do is I kind of pinch it here. I just pinch it right. Hopefully you can see that. I pinch it and bring it over to where I see my point is going, matching right up here, matching right up there with my line. And I apologize, but I don't know if you guys have noticed, I have gone so low here since after our first set of the B, J, and H, and Gabrielle had to leave, so I've been doing this all by myself. starting and stopping and starting and stopping. So if you didn't notice that, then hey, I must be doing this pretty good, huh? So let's go ahead and we're gonna make sure to pin this part so it's not sliding around and everything comes out nice and even. And we will worry about what our block size is supposed to be when we get these all done. So we're going to go through each one of these blocks and we're going to pin the top part, okay? And then we're going to pin the second part of the flower in the leaves. And do that on each one of them. Then, because you guys know pretty much what you need to do, we're going to come over, we're going to take all of these pieces when we have these here sewn together and these sewn together, and we're just going to flip that on top and we're going to stitch those to give us one whole complete block, okay? So let's go ahead and work on that. And remember to press, make sure that you are pressing these as you complete them, and then we'll be back. And we're getting there. We are getting there, I promise. This is a very long block, and trust me, I'm filling every bit of it. So yes, let's go ahead and just stitch these together, and we'll be right back. I wanted to go ahead and show you real quick. I went through and I sewed all my pieces together, and I did a chain stitch. It's really quick and simple. That's what I usually do when I have a lot of pieces going at the same time. I will just run them one right after another. If you don't know what I'm talking about, that is, if you look, see all of these are stuck together here. It's just you are sewing and you send one in right after another, and it just makes things a lot quicker to be able to do that. And then all you have to do is just take and cut them apart like so. And I had already gone through and pressed all of my seams open, and now we want to go ahead and we need to place our puzzle piece back in order so that we don't confuse any pieces. So if you are doing the chain stitch, make sure that you come back and you place everything back down the way it should be, and then put your pieces, let's see, this is my corner for up here, and so you should be able to tell when you have your corner pieces that goes down in that particular corner, okay? That goes up there, and this one here, and make sure that everything is lining back up, and then you're going to take and you're going to flip over those pieces. And if you notice, you do have a seam that you can match up with the seam on the other side. So you want to make sure to match that seam, and then the same, trying to see how I can get you to see this the best. If you look, we still have an arrow here, and that needs to line up with this here. So the point of this arrow, and I really hope that you guys can see this. I apologize. I'm hoping that you can see that point, you want that to line up with the two pieces in between here, okay? So you're going to have that point with this, and you're going to have these two seams here line up. So make sure to put your pin in there, and pin at the sides as well, so you don't have anything trying to creep up on you, and then your pieces are not going to measure out properly. So let's go ahead and do that part, get those all together, and we'll reconvene. All right, our next step, we have our completed blocks. They should be measuring 7 1/4 by 7 1/4, so you want to make sure to check that. And then we are going to go ahead and we're going to make our centerpiece that's going to go in between each one of these spaces here, okay? We need our 4 pieces of A, which are 5-inch blocks, all right? Because those are going to go just like this. They're going to fit right in between each one of these areas. And I need to make sure that my right side up is showing here. There we go. This one here is upside down. Okay. So we are going to make the inner part here. And with that, we need to take the rest of H. You should have 8 2 3/4 squares left in letter H. And these are going to act just like we did here with our B, J, and H. The way that we built these pieces here is going to happen just like that here. So we are going to lay right sides together. I'll do it on this one up here. Let me scoot these out of the way so you see that just a little better. And we're going to make that arrow, but we're doing it one at a time, okay? So we're gonna size this up here in the upper left-hand corner of the block when we're sitting here looking at it. Upper left-hand corner, that's gonna go diagonal from the bottom left to the upper right area to give us that top portion of the arrow. And we're gonna stitch that, and then we're gonna come back and we're going to trim, just like we did here. We're going to trim that for our 1/4 inch. We're going to measure on our seam line. And then that will replace and fold up here, just like that, where we can put our next piece. And the line is drawn there so that you see this now. On the right side, it's the bottom right and goes up to the upper left of the diagonal to be able to make the second part of that arrow. And you want to make sure to stitch on that line after this one has been sized and it has been trimmed and then pressed. You want to go ahead and do the same repeat on this one, to be able to give us that open arrow look. So when that is all done, I don't know how well you can see that, but this then is going to match up with our part of our leaf, creating that on this side here, okay? So what we are doing right now is we are taking our A pieces, our 5-inch squares, that are going to be in the center parts. We are taking our H, the letter H pieces, laying these down just like we did for these pieces here, and we are going to stitch on the line, and we're going to then come back, measure it to make sure that it is still 5 by 5. We are then going to trim this back part so that this piece can flip over, and we press that and then continue with this piece here, okay? Doing the exact same thing. We're going to do that on all 4 pieces. We've already done this, so I'm going to keep my fingers crossed that everybody's got that, what we just did on these other 2 areas here, and we'll come back when we get those put together. And voila! Boy, oh boy, we're getting excited now. We're getting very, very close to the end. But now you see how these pieces, they just kind of match up. We've got one empty spot on each side. Any guesses? Any guesses what goes there? Let me tell you. our last 4 pieces of A, which is our background pieces. This is so simple. This is the simplest part of all of this. All of these are just going to lay in those empty spots. And then you guessed it, we are taking this and we are folding it over on top of each one of these pieces. And you want to go ahead and pin so that you know the proper side you're supposed to be stitching. Okay? We want to make sure that our pins are in there and we're stitching the right way, because nobody wants to rip anything out at this point. We are on the home stretch and we want to make sure everything is done correctly. So we get all of these pieces together, and then we're going to go stitch those and give them a good press, and then we're on to the very last part, our center piece. All right, so let's pick all of these up and give them a quick stitch. Okay, so now we have our center piece in each block. These pieces are all put together, and we are working on our very last piece. Yay! Our center, and what we need our F piece, which is the 1 5-inch square, and we need our 4 D as in dog, piece. That's 2 3/4 inch squares. And so now on this, just like what we did with these pieces over here, we are going to do the exact same thing with this piece. You're going to draw your lines on the back side of your D pieces, and you're going to put these in there to make them as an arrow, just like this. We're going to stitch the first one down, and then we're going to take it over. We're going to measure to make sure that it's still reading 5 inches. We're going to trim that and press, and then we'll come over and we'll put on the second piece over into this corner so that it makes that arrow, and you're doing the exact same thing. And then we're going to flip it, and we're going to do the exact same thing with these pieces. We're going to put that one in that corner, stitch. We're going to measure. After each one of these, you want to make sure that you are measuring. They need to still read 5 inches. And then you're going to do your trimming. You're going to press, come back over, grab this piece and lay it on top, and do that. And we should be finished with this center block. So go ahead and take your pieces over and let's get those stitched on and come back and get ready to put it all together, okay? All right, and I'm back guys. Thank goodness I have Tim. Tim is on the camera now. Woohoo, thank you, Tim. You should have this block, which is our center. So we'll place this now. We have that all completed. Now you know what to do. We're going to go ahead and we're going to just flip these and sew down the seams, and then we have our number 3 block. Everybody see that okay? And then, yeah, so then after all that work today, woo, I am worn out. Don't know about you guys, but for next week, to let you know, we have our holiday cheer block, and here's kind of a sneak peek at what I have so far for that block. And just so I can kind of show you the picture, are you able to see that okay? Okay, got that? Everybody see that? I will have the cutting measurements posted to Facebook on Friday and in the newsletter for Monday. So everyone kind of get ready, thinking about what you would like to use. You'll use 3 colors along with your background color on that. And so as always, this comes to the close and we have our drawing that we need to do. So we will have Tim draw a name from all of the blocks that were brought in for this past week. And week 2 winner goes to Laura Winsler. Laura, you are our week 2 winner. And Laura wins our snack bowl today. We had savory Chex Mix, cheddar flavor. And look, Laura, instead of a jar, we've switched to these little tumblers. So you get a tumbler with your little snack treat there. So Laura, come in, you get 1 yard of free fabric along with the little today's treat. And all right, guys, any questions, as usual, please make sure to contact me. And hopefully you all understood this video and got through it okay. I tried to do the best I could getting you through. So until next week, into block number 4, it's flying by. Oh my gracious. But we'll see you then. So take care. Bye-bye.